headlines this hour. President pledges to reallocate the Mahamadou Vari currently under tourism lease for the direct economic benefit of Hitadu residents. Foreign Minister hails brotherly relations with Saudi Arabia, describing the kingdom as a major development partner for the Maldives. And statistics show Maldives Inland Revenue Authority has received $4.7 million in Zakat al-Mal contributions so far this year. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz unveils a comprehensive development program for Hitadu in Ba Atoll, pledging to reallocate the Mahamadou Vari site, currently under a long-term tourism lease for the direct economic benefit of the island's residents. The president stated that the 30-year agreement governing Mahamadou Vari would be legally terminated, citing the site's historical and economic relevance to Hitadu. Describing its current state as unproductive, he confirmed that the Ministry of Tourism and Planning, in coordination with the Attorney General's office, has been instructed to facilitate the transition. The visit also marked the signing of two strategic agreements, one concerning land reclamation and another authorizing the construction of a multi-purpose hall at Hitadu School. Plans for the health sector were similarly outlined by President Muiz during his address. He noted that the construction of a new building had been contracted to Feneco Corporation to accommodate expanded services including laboratory diagnostics, dialysis treatment, and additional clinical space. He further stated that recreational infrastructure would be developed with a full-scale football court, a volleyball court, a fitness and recreation center, and an outdoor gym, all slated for initiation within the current year. The MTCC has been awarded the contract for a land reclamation project aimed at addressing persistent land scarcity on the island. Valued at approximately $8.88 million, the agreement stipulates that MTCC must complete the works within 450 days. Under the terms of the project, 15 hectares of new land will be reclaimed to support future development. To ensure structural integrity and long-term resilience, the plan includes the construction of 691 meters of revetment along the perimeter and the installation of 6 groins, each measuring 25 meters to mitigate erosion and stabilize the shoreline. In a meeting convened at the Secretariat of the Hitadu Council, President Muiz engaged with members of the Island Council, the Women's Development Committee, and heads of local institutions to assess the island's most pertinent concerns. Council representatives raised issues including land scarcity, inadequate housing, and the need to extend the harbor channel marker beyond its current boundaries. Challenges in developing local tourism and the urgent requirement for coastal erosion mitigation were also discussed. The president's visit also included the inauguration of ATM services in Hitadu, marked by a symbolic transaction. The installation represents the 44th island to receive such services this year under a national initiative. President Muiz arrived in Hitadu on August 13th morning. The visit marks the 9th stop on his tour of Ba Atoll, which includes 13 inhabited islands. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdullah Khalil, hails the close and brotherly relations with Saudi Arabia, describing the kingdom as a major development partner for the Maldives. Responding to a question by an opposition lawmaker at Parliament, Minister Dr. Khalil insisted that the close relationship between Maldives and Saudi Arabia has been elevated since the incumbent administration took office in November 2023. He pointed out the generous financial assistance provided by the Saudi government to fast-track the opening of the recently unveiled new international passenger terminal at the country's main gateway, Valana International Airport or VIA, adding that the loan agreement with Saudi of $18.61 million to accelerate the project was signed during this administration. The minister said previous government officials had officially visited Saudi Arabia 6 times and held 6 official meetings, while this government in just 18 months has visited Saudi Arabia 7 times and held 7 official meetings. According to the minister, President Dr. Muiz's administration has shaped its foreign policy to reflect the wishes and sentiments of the Maldivian people, which has elevated its relations with the Muslim world along with receiving international recognition as an unwavering voice for the rights of Palestinian people. Maldives' unyielding position on the rights of Palestine, reflected by its unprecedented move to ban entry on Israeli passports, had received commendation and support from the Muslim world, which he said has directly contributed to the increase of tourist arrivals from Islamic countries. Statistics show Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, or MIRA, has received $4.7 million in Zakat al-Mal contributions so far this year. MIRA's July revenue figures showed that Zakat al-Mal collection in the first 7 months is 10% more than the $4.3 million posted during the same period last year. According to the figures, MIRA had collected $778,210 in July as Zakat al-Mal, down from $972,760 in July last year. Zakat al-Mal is a religious obligation required of individuals whose wealth has reached the Nisab threshold and has remained above the threshold for 1 lunar year. It can be paid at any time of the year. The Ministry of Islamic Affairs determines the obligatory Nisab for Zakat al-Mal in the Maldives. The ministry last revised the Nisab in April this year. The current Nisab is $600. The Nisab is based on the value of gold and silver and changes according to changes in the price of gold and silver in the global market. If an individual possesses wealth equal to or greater than the Nisab for over a lunar year, he is obliged to pay 2.5% of his wealth as zakat. Chief Executive Officer of Bank of Maldives, or BML, says sweeping government initiative to install automated teller machines on every inhabited island is reshaping access to financial services and accelerating the integration of funds into the formal banking system. The program, launched under the directive of President Dr. Mohamed Muiz, is designed to ensure that all residents, regardless of island population, have access to essential banking services. During President Muiz's visit to Ba Atoll, Sharif told PSM News that the bank had been instructed to install ATMs in 103 additional islands before the end of the year. The expansion is intended to eliminate long-standing barriers faced by island communities, many of whom previously incurred significant costs and travel burdens to access basic banking services. With the new infrastructure in place, residents are now able to conduct transactions such as withdrawals, deposits, and transfers directly from their home islands, according to Sharif. He added that the accompanying digital upgrades also allow users to initiate account openings and loan applications remotely. Sharif observed a shift in banking behavior, noting a rise in deposits from newly operational ATMs. He attributed the increase to growing confidence in the accessibility of funds. Since January, BML has inaugurated 44 new ATMs, expanding its network to more than 250 nationwide. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says he will not compromise the interests of the country's farmers, even if he has to pay a heavy price for it. In his first comments after U.S. President Donald Trump's salvo of a 50% tariff on Indian goods.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in a function in New Delhi that, quote, India will never compromise on the well-being of its farmers, dairy sector and fishermen, unquote, adding that he knows personally that he will have to pay a heavy price for it. Trump announced an additional 25% tariff on the South Asian nation, taking the total levy on Indian goods being exported to the U.S. to 50%, among the highest levied on any U.S. trading partner. Resident S.N. Thorat said the 50% tariff imposed by the United States is absolutely wrong, noting that while India is developed, it is not as developed as the U.S. Thorat warned the tariff would hurt the Indian market and trade, adding that America's stance is misguided. The tariff announcements were published in front-page headlines across Indian dailies as Indian shares fell with the benchmarks, slipping to 3 months lows, stoking concerns over the economic impact of heightened trade tensions.
Now moving on to current international affairs, New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says that Israel's leader Benjamin Netanyahu had lost the plot as the country weighs up whether to recognize a Palestinian state. Luxon told reporters that the lack of humanitarian assistance, the forceful displacement of people and the annexation of Gaza were utterly appalling and that Netanyahu had gone way too far. Luxon said earlier this week New Zealand was considering whether to recognize a Palestinian state. Close ally Australia on Monday, August 11th, joined Canada, the UK and France in announcing it would do so at a UN conference in September.
I think what's happening in Gaza is utterly appalling. I think Netanyahu has gone way too far. I think he has lost the plot, and I think that what we're seeing overnight with the attack on Gaza City is utterly unacceptable, and that's what we have been calling for as an international community now for a long period of time. He is not listening to the international community, and that is unacceptable.
Ahead of parliamentary session, a small number of protesters gathered outside the country's parliament buildings, beating pots and pans and chanting, "MPs grow a spine, recognize Palestine." On August 12, Greens parliamentarian Chloe Swarbrick was removed from Parliament's debating chamber after she refused to apologize for a comment insinuating government politicians were spineless for not supporting a bill to sanction Israel for its war crimes.
Well, honestly, things are being made up. But this is uncharted territory. There is no precedent to cling to here. So, we will continue in those conversations with the clerk and the House office. But, I think that these are actually very legitimate questions that need to be put back to the Speaker. But were I able to remain in the House today, we would have been putting those questions directly to the Prime Minister about the need for the government to act when it comes to sanctioning Israel.
Swarbrick was ordered to leave the debating chamber for a second day on Wednesday after she again refused to apologize. When she refused to leave, the government voted to suspend her. Insights into sports, Gianluigi Donnarumma confirms his imminent departure from Paris Saint-Germain after he was effectively axed from the squad by manager Luis Enrique, who left the Italian keeper out August 13th UEFA Super Cup lineup. Donnarumma played an instrumental role in PSG's treble-winning campaign last season, helping them to finally win the Champions League for the first time. However, the 26-year-old, who joined the club in 2021, has now been left out in the cold. PSG signed French keeper Lucas Chevalier on August 9th, fueling speculation about Donnarumma's future, and with 1 year left on his contract, the Italian is now set to move on. Donnarumma posted on social media on August 12, saying, quote, "Unfortunately, someone has decided that I can no longer be part of the group and contribute to the team's success. I am disappointed and disheartened." End of quote. Egyptian Nobel laureate Naguib Mahfouz's timeless novels gets a vibrant new look, with two of his works, Miramar and The Thief and the Dogs, reimagined as comic books.
The project is the brainchild of screenwriter and author Muhammad Ismail Amin, who teamed up with comics writer and illustrator Amigo to adapt Mahfouz's novels into illustrated form. Migo said the comic books offer young readers an accessible entry point into Egypt's literary heritage while still engaging older fans. The adaptations have sparked curiosity among young readers like 17-year-old Yusuf Islam, who says the illustrations help him visualize and understand the stories more easily. Amin added that they are already looking toward translating the books into English and French to reach a global audience, saying the quote, "The project will not stop at Naguib Mahfouz only or at the two novels that are released," unquote.
And that's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News.